right. Welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. I'm that other dude, Andrew. As always, I'm joined by Heather. This is episode number 121. And today we will be talking about Temple of the Fuzz Witch. So, Heather, this was your choice. I will throw the ball to you and you can begin the journey.
Okay. We spoke to the band some recently, and they told us that they did a split with Temple of the Fuzz Witch that's coming out later this year. And I was kind of blown away by that because I already had Temple of the Fuzz Witch on our calendar to talk about because I really like their latest release. It's called Apotheosis. And the fact that they have a split coming out with some, I think, is just so cool. It's just the perfect timing to talk about them now. They describe themselves as Black and Doom from Detroit, Michigan. That album is so heavy, and from the very first song, I was amazed at how the guitars could sound like that. There's both harsh and clean vocals, and it's a great mixture. The album is dark and dirty, and I love it. There's a lot of variety from song to song, different tempos, vocals, guitar tones. I think my favorite song on the album is Apostate. You can just feel it pulling the soul out of your body, and it's heavy, and the tone is so low, but it's also got this incredible atmosphere at the same time. There's pounding drums and nasty vocals. This is an album that will get under your skin. And I heard the songs for the split are going to be heavier. And I'm wondering how that's possible. I have to say that I'm really looking forward to listening to it. It's called Conjuring, and it's coming out later this year. And I'll certainly be looking out for it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now how it could be heavier, like how that's even possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, we talked briefly before recording about the tone that the band could get and what the formula was, and whether or not that's something that they would protect. I remember talking to my brother once about making a rub for like a pork loin or a steak or something like that, and then asking him if I could have the combination of ingredients to give to a friend. And my brother got real defensive and was like, that's my rub. I don't really like. So I'm wondering if musicians are similar in like, this is my settings. I don't know if I want that out in the world. So it'll be interesting to find out. Hopefully one of the members of Temple of the Fuzz Witch will get back to us. So I also listened to Apotheosis, and I went to the old standby of Urban Dictionary to see if Temple of the Fuzz Witch might have another meaning other than just, a place where black and doom metal is created. And they didn't have Temple of the Fuzz Witch, but they had Forehead Fuzz, The Fuzz, T-Fuzz, Fuzz Nuzzle, Fuzz Face, Kiwi Fuzz, Sugar Fuzz, Fuzz, Fuzzing, Fuzzed Up, and Fridge Fuzz Theory. So they had definitions for all of those terms, but not Temple of the Fuzz Witch. So I'm sort of tempted to look into what Fuzz Nuzzle could be, because that sounds like it could either be a children's television show, like it's 4:00, time to watch Fuzz Nuzzle, or it could be something really dirty. I don't know. Yeah, I also wrote a great combination of clean vocals with corrosive elements. That's sort of, I guess, where the blackened doom comes into play. And then thinking about the titles, they are mostly having to do with supernatural thing. Like the first one is called White, spelled Wight, which, according to Urban Dictionary, is an incorporeal undead being that drains the essence of living beings to stay alive. Wights are usually controlled by someone or thing of higher power, such as a necromancer. Also, wight could be a combination, of portmanteau of wicked and tight. So if you want to say something is wicked and tight, you would say it's wight. You could also say ticked, but wight tends to work better. The third option is that they could be referencing Paul Wight, who goes by the moniker The Big Show. He was a former professional wrestler. But I really don't think, I think it probably has to do with the undead beings. And then we've got Nephilim, which supposedly, and again, this is from Urban Dictionary, the giant offspring of fallen angels and human females, also regarded as plain giants. And then the example they gave was, holy tits, Batman, look at that giant Nephilim over there. So I can't wait to use that in real life. My personal favorite song was Cursed, which I think they had released as a single at one point. I really loved the riff. I loved the vocals. It was unique. It sounded almost like there was a, like with the band Morphine using a saxophone. It almost sounded like at one point there was that involved. It sounded a little bit like Morphine. I don't know if that was done on purpose. And then Metal Injection had said the single Cursed fluctuates between all the smoky goodness you could ever want out of a stoner metal track with just a touch of blackened vocals to really bring down the mood. And Nephilim was my second favorite song. So ultimately, I thought this was a great, the fact that they could go between the sort of the clean vocal of a doom, and then the harsh blackened metal vocal, I thought was really well done. Typically, I don't really like growling vocals as much, but I thought with this one it did a nice emphasis, when needed. I thought it was a really good combination.
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know how they're going to get a lower tone.
Yeah.
But
I saw when I was listening to it, I saw how many plays each song has gotten. And it's funny that you mentioned Cursed, and I think it was a single because that particular song had way more plays than the other songs on the record. I thought that was really interesting. That was like in the thousands that it had been played, and like other songs weren't nearly that high. So I think that might be a lot of other people's favorite song on the record too.
Yeah, well, and I think, perhaps because it led as a single that the band chose to release that one. So who knows? I mean, I for me, it personally was my favorite. But it also means that perhaps objectively it is one of their better songs. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you had mentioned that they're doing the split with Some, and you had it on the calendar already, I was like, well, this is clearly the universe trying to tell us we need to listen to Temple of the Fuzz Witch. Yeah. And all I could think about was the scene in Boogie Nights where Eddie Adams comes up with his name, Dirk Diggler, and Jack Horner says to him, I think heaven has sent you here, Dirk Diggler. So I was thinking, like, I think heaven has sent you here, Temple of the Fuzz Witch. And Some. I mean, I think it's been interesting how all of these bands tend to come onto our radar.
Yeah. Yeah, when we were talking to them and they mentioned that, I was just like, whoa, that blew my mind. like, that is so cool. That is so freaking cool. I can't
And
wait. I can't wait till it comes out.
yeah, it's going to be interesting too because I'm trying to think like anytime bands do splits, it's always interesting how they like chose to do one together, um, and how the music complements each other. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to think like because some is heavy, but it's just bass and drums and vocals. Um, so I'm trying to think like how the music, I'm excited to find out. So
Yeah.
I'm trying not to go into it with any expectations,
Yeah.
but I'm also curious like how do these bands fit together? Um, I mean, obviously they do, especially if they said it's heavier than what we just listened to. That's gonna be that's
It's
gonna
gonna
be.
be mind blowing.
I know. I'm because this was like the first track hits, which I think was White, um, and I just remember thinking, "Whoa, this is really," or maybe it's not White, but whichever the first track was, um, it was also more predominantly growling vote. When I first put the album on, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be like listening to Weed Eater," just in terms of the more corrosive vocals. That'll be a good term. And then they went into more of a clean vocal, so it was interesting. But yeah, I completely forgot where I was going with that.
I really like how all the songs sound different from each other. It's not the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's like from song to song, I really didn't know what to expect. And I was very pleasantly surprised,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, by the next song and then the song after that. And just the different things that they were doing within the song. It just it I was just really impressed by the whole thing.
yeah. Well, what's nice is that they're not. You hear Doom, um, and I think for me at least, immediately I asked the question of like, are they going to embrace the traditional things that have always worked, or are they going to try new things, or like what's going to be the playbook here? And with what's cool is the combination of Black and Doom. I don't really listen to as often, um, but they're also do like the song structure is a little different. Like it's not the same. They're not simply going back to the well each time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool. They're from Michigan. I
Yeah.
know because I always like learning about bands because aside from Grave Next Door, um, and I know there's probably a few more that I'm not thinking of. I'm not really as familiar with the Michigan scene. Um, I guess now Kenneth Prouty's there as well,
Yeah.
but it was cool to find out they were from the D.
Yeah. Yeah. Another Midwestern band.
Absolutely.
I always enjoyed learning that they're from the Midwest, my stomping grounds.
Yeah. Well, and I'm like I remember seeing the cover for their first release and thinking, okay, I should check that out. Um, but now that I like working backwards sometimes. It's nice to see like where they are now and where they started. So it'll be interesting to go back because I'm definitely hooked. Not I mean I'm as excited for the upcoming split with some as I am to kind of go back and see like what the other albums are.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how they got on my radar and I can't remember. I can't remember how I came across them or when I started listening to them. I don't know, but when their new album was released, and I listened to it and I was like, wow. We have
Yeah.
to talk about this. We have to talk about them because
Well,
it's a lot different than the stuff that we have previously talked about.
sure.
So it's a lot different, and I there's just how heavy it is was so it's just so good. And we just had to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, what was interesting too is like most mornings now, because I have certain things I need to get done by a certain time. So like I usually put my headphones on, and typically it's like, something I can just have in the background, like something I'm familiar, like jazz. Like I'll throw Bill Evans on, who's a jazz musician, um, or I'll throw on like "Dope Smoker" by Sleep because I'm so familiar with the song that it's just the white noise of it almost keeps me level headed. And then today I was like, oh, this would be a perfect time to listen to Temple of the Fuzz Witch. And it gave me like I felt, because the songs are really powerful and give you like are I mean, like you had said, they're not all the same tempo, but there's like a power there. The tone of the guitar gives you such a kick in the butt that I was like, okay, I'm ready to conquer the day. As the Macho Man once said, the cream always rises to the top. So I was ready to rise to the top to a
Yeah.
soundtrack of Temple of the Fuzz Witch.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like the perfect analogy.
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, I definitely recommend checking out this band, especially if you're looking for something that's different. If you want to recreate in the Doom category, but you want something unique, then check out Temple of the Fuzz. I look forward to going back and praying at the Temple of the Fuzz Witch. That'll be
It's such
fun.
a cool band name too. I really like it.
It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I am sure we'll be listening to their split with some when it comes out and discussing it on the show.
Yeah.
So this is not the last time you've heard of Temple of the Fuzz Witch.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Well, that was I'm really glad they were on the calendar anyway. And I think hearing them from some just sort of reinforced that this was the band we should talk about next.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Heather.